Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Titus. To start with, I'll just introduce everyone. Starting from that side, we have Jachinder from Yatra. We have Santosh from Fresh FTH. And we have Satish from Arvind. We have Ashmeer from the DaMENSCH. And we also have Praveen from Amazon Prime. Okay. To start the session, right, I want to throw one question, just keeping aside of this user experience, right? I want to start with how do you guys are seeing or segregating your data, first of all, to give the impact of user experience? Because I see personally that data is where you have to start to build your experience. So I would throw this question to Jatinder, because you might have seen the pandemic post and pre. Coming from the travel industry, there might be a down and up. I would like to start from there. The voice is not clear for the folks in the stage. Can you guys fix that? Okay.
Thanks. I think just to put a perspective, setting not only we, I think everybody sitting in this room would have seen across pre-pandemic and post-pandemic transformation, which has happened. We have seen a consumer behavior evolving, the way consumer used to actually consume a product, and the way it has been now. And we were having a discussion, and we said the world has been divided into two now, right? We call it essential and non-essential, right? So somewhere down the line, a category like travel used to be coming back as a discretionary item, and it's been vacillating between essential, non-essential, depending on the kind of usage one has. A same destination give a multiple utility value. Sometime when people see across and experience a destination, there are two set of things. One is people want to consume now, right? And I was sharing a data with while we were having a discussion. The category like pilgrimage, we saw across a 300% upside in terms of jump is concerned. I don't know, it's been a giving a thanks to a God or a fear of a God, right? After pre-pandemic and this one. But we saw the transformation. And I think coming from a perspective of data and all that, I always believe in a fact stating that consumer experience in terms of engagement of consumer, right? A same consumer will have a different utility for a different stuff of a destination. So the idea is how do you actually collate that data and how do you analyze the data and to use across and create a product which is far more relevant to consumer and the content which is relevant and make it easy for both the customer to buy the stuff and internal customer to sell the stuff. I think that's where when both the things come in equilibrium, that's where your win comes across for both the parties. And I think that's my perspective on this one.
Got it. So what about Fresh FTH? Because you also have an offline store as well as an online store. Do you have a struggle in getting the 360 degree of your customer?
360 degree, I do not know. So when we talk about experience, so ultimately the customers, the demand proposition is very simple. So so there is pleasure which is derived out of the benefit of the product, and then there is pain because of the effort that the customer spends or the money that he or she spends, or they now, right? So whatever is the delta, whatever is the difference is the customer pleasure, right? Experience. So one, if you give value to the customer in terms of benefits, whether it is emotional or functional benefit. So we come from a grocery ecosystem. So FTH Daily is an essential milk, tech, and fruits and vegetables and various other things. And FreshToHome, as you know, is a online #1 in online food, meat and fish, etc. So across categories, what we have seen is customers. Price, of course, is a great differentiator, but at the same time, we would be able to, derive intelligence out of the fact that there are some affinities that the customer exhibits, some kind of a psychographical or demographical profile. For example, there are customers who buy nutritious food, like for example in FTH Daily, they have more propensity because they might have kids, so they have more propensity to buy kid-related stuff, like for example sandwiches and for breakfast, healthy stuff, right? So that is something that we would be able to derive a pattern out of their behavior and habits.
Got it. Passing to Arvind, because you guys are, Satish from Arvind, but you are into a lot of brands. Under Arvind, you have multiple brands, right? So does segregating the data, like to get the view out of it, is it a challenge for you still in 2022, or like this has been solved for you?
Yeah. So let me start with this. I think each of our brands, have a particular segment which it caters to, right? So if you look at an Arrow, it is typically a formal segment, and now we are kind of extending into wedding, occasion wear, and formal blazers and suits and so on and so forth. So that is a target segment which historically has lived its proposition, because there is some messaging around the brand, around the purchase, that a shopper kind of recollects, right, when he makes the decision. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you will have something like a flying machine, which is more youth, which is more energy driven, more fast fashion dynamic. So I think while broadly we know our customer segment, right, it's about getting to the next cliff of moving away from, as JP rightly put it, from the the discretionary category to the non-discretionary category, right? Because by and large, anything which is above 2 to 3,000 in terms of a purchase of a jean or a trouser or a t-shirt, in times of economic difficulties especially, it could be seen as a fairly discretionary or rather non-discretionary in spend. So how do I give a consistency in terms of proposition to the customer, right, depending on the category and the segment it serves, and help him or her get through the cliff of the decision making with respect to the purchase, is the key challenge that we have seen from a customer data standpoint. And there are several ways of skinning the problem, right? Obviously, direct to consumer has definitely is going to tip the proposition in the favor of the brand and make it far more propensitous to buy. And an increased online through marketplaces and multiple channels would actually help us create a lot of research online, buy offline kind of propositions. So I think we are, the broader point I'm making is that from a customer decision standpoint, especially given the premiumization and the nature of some of the product, and having to move through the wedge of a discretion to non-discretion, we are now creating far and more platforms to make that decision more palpable and more understandable for the customer, so that ultimately the customer ends up with the right decision. And there is also a stickiness associated with that decision, and it is not just a one time. So I think a lot of this has probably taken a very different context and shape, the whole idea of segmentation itself. From what we would have seen, perhaps, everything looked hunky-dory, right, before COVID. And especially after COVID, the way things look like. I think, it's kind of, it's helping navigate through the journey is what we are, working through. And D2C, online presence, buy online, pick up offline, making your stores more experience driven. I also like the equation which Santosh put, right? Pleasure minus pain equal to experience. So how do you maximize the experience and elevate the pain, right? I think all of that really applies when you talk about discretionary product.
Just want to double click on the COVID part, right? Like, have COVID helped you to accelerate on the digital experience? Because we were left out with very few tools, right, to make sure we are delivering the user experience. Have it accelerated? If some insights you can share, it would be great.
Yeah, so most of the apparel segments, if you look at it, and including ours, of course, including global brands like Zara or a Mango, if you look at it, they've almost tripled, if not more, their revenue footprint coming out of online channels, both B2B and B2C online put together, right? And for instance, today we are at about 26, 27% of the revenue share coming from online. And pre-COVID, it was probably more like single digits, right? So everything around this has revolved around, how do you make two decisions, right? One is how do you reach the customer faster and more efficiently, right? So that's the first decision. And the second decision is how do you make sure that as a fast fashion product, you are able to stay relevant, to the seasons and to the the market trends and the movements, right? Of course, the fast fashion has actually had a very seasonal overture, over the last COVID period, because people were more bothered about functionality, buying a good sweatshirt rather than it having the the greatest of the latest shades, coming in the design market. So it has had a combination of both. So we went through the process more from a consumer perspective, because that's when you make sure that your reachability of the product is much better. And once you reach, then it's about making the experience much more efficient, whether they decide to shop at the store or whether they continue to pick online.
Got it. So Ashmeer, so recently you have also opened an offline store, and we had a discussion that have you done something creatively to send a campaign in digitally and then drive traffic to your offline store. So would like to double click on that as well, like how customer experience have changed when you are into this brick and mortar business, right? Like how does it change for like?
Yeah, so for DaMENSCH, it has been a D2C brand, 4-year-old brand per se, and we are competing with all the biggies, who have been there for maybe a century or more than a century, in the innerwear and athleisure space. From a point of view of what DaMENSCH stands is for comfort, and today's customer, and specifically with the pandemic thing that we are talking about, it's more towards the essentials, non-essentials. So we fall in the essentials category. From a comfort point of view, the DaMENSCH products were the ones, especially the athleisure t-shirts, lounge shorts and all that, which were there was utilized during the pandemic stint. That really helped us, and touching base on the data point, because with D2C, it is all about, the numbers and the email IDs of the customer to start the customer journey. While that is already available with us, it helped us to kind of, focus on a specific, kind of a catchment, to say that, when we open a store, and that's how we opened the first store in Mantri Mall in Bangalore. To answer your point on that aspect as to, the push notifications that went to the existing online customers, while, pre-pandemic, they would have easily, or we would as a brand, would have been present across channels. For the D2C channel, kind of a brand for us, it really helped to have these consumers already experience it without physically touching and feeling the product. And here, there was an opportunity for them to what they have bought, and these are discerning customers, who are actually looking at the comfort and quality, and they were able to kind of feel that to share in sheer numbers, the kind of notification we pushed, around 20 to 25% of these consumers came to physically have a look at the store and experience the product for themselves. Yeah.
Got it. So let me move to Praveen. Very interestingly, right? You have a lot of data, and you have to also recommend a lot of data, being an OTT channel, right? So personalization has to be one key factor as well for you, right? Like, because if I am watching a particular genre of a series, and you have to push the same content back to back so that I get engaged and retained as well, right? What kind of framework you follow when it comes to personalization, right, for watching the OTT content? Do you have tried anything different to enhance this digital user experience?
Hello. Yeah, so I mean, it's a very deep question. For example, I would try to kind of say that not only limited to personalization, but it's about like how you build your customer journey, right, for a long-term viability, right? Because today it's incredibly difficult to take a harmonized view of customer, right? So because customers are interacting in different services, right? So, but what I have seen like as an observer in across multiple good organizations doing this task well is they are trying to consistently follow a framework where they say, okay, customer today is transacting on a different surfaces and it is also getting engaged on different services, right? So for example, like I can pick a couple of examples. Say for example, if you look at say a physical retailer trying to become a omnichannel retailer, so it has its online ordering app as well as its in-store, right? So these are the two surfaces they are like transacting, right? But if you say there has to be certain base structural inputs that has to be same across that. So if you say that, okay, I accept a Sodexo card, I'm giving a very basic example. I accept a Sodexo card in your offline store, but I don't offer the same experience on online app. That's a broken experience. So you cannot build a sustainable on when your basics are broken on the surface, right? Now, if you look at the, say, servicing dimension of it, right? So for example, again, I say if I pick up from grocery and I can probably talk about some subscription example as well. So for example, how customers perceive defect, right, in an online order versus how customer perceive defect when they walk into the store is very different. So for example, any item, any order with an item not found is a defect, and it stands a chance to get rejected, right, and no repeats. Whereas if you go to an offline store, there is so much of stimulus around that you tend to compensate for your defects, right? So I think there's the how you experience the same service across different surfaces. That's one dimension, right? So similarly, if you go to purely say digital kind of services like say subscription services, right? So Amazon Prime is one example, and there are multiple like equally good programs. So like as all of you know that Prime is basically it brings out like multiple benefits like shipping, shopping, entertainment, reading, and all those things, right? And we operate not only on our 1P surfaces, which is basically you can come and become a Prime member on Amazon, or you can also become a Prime member on third-party surface, right? Or there could be multiple ways, right? So there's a constant tension and a challenge for us to how do you ensure that on different surfaces, say a base structural input could be like how easily you are able to enter your payment instrument and so that you are recurringly billed, right? That could be a very, very base infrastructure kind of a thing, right? Now, if you look at, if you wear the service lens on there, right? So then it becomes more like, okay, I may come may through a video ingress, right? But I may end up like shopping because I found the no cost EMI offer very appealing on an iPhone, right? Or it could be vice versa, right? So it becomes incredibly complex to get a unified view of like consumers. And what I have seen like organizations have been really doing very well is that, okay, at least they have started organizing around it, right? So they understand these frameworks. There are certain aggregation hierarchies there, right? So it's a very cohort level analysis, and a lot of ML and AI is being leveraged in the backend to do that, so that at least, let's say, there's a unified view on the framework. How should we get organized around that? But so that it allows you to customize your journeys, right? So I think that's my observation so far. Yeah.
Got it. So next question is like open to the panel. Like anyone can pick this. So
one thing that I wanted to comment on what basis what Satish, right? Praveen said. So one thing that I was hooked into, one reason why I was hooked into Amazon was the benefit of plus. Okay, I will explain. So I get a Prime. I think I bought it at $4.99 or whatever. Now I think it is $9.99. So when I bought it at $4.99 for a year, so apart from getting these kinds of great experience of watching movies and series, you will also get a free VIP membership on Amazon Prime, Amazon the other one, right? Amazon Grocery or Amazon Foods or whatever. I mean, anyway, now Foods is not there. So that kind of a plus experience will psychologically, customers would be forced to think that I'm driving more value than, I'm sure it is true as well, but that is a psychological takeout from the customers. So incidentally, we also run a subscription, so FTH Daily is a subscription platform as well. So it is very surprising to note that, so though it's a milk delivery platform, there are lots of non-milk buyers, but who have not a subscription, it's get one customer, but using that as well.
Got it. So yeah, I think one subscription, I think you have close to around 5 different services, right? Very interesting point. The next question is open to the entire panel. Which is your go-to channel? Like, say, for example, you thought about one crazy idea, like we want to launch something to our entire customer base. Which will be your go-to channel to start publishing it? Do you still believe email as a channel, or you are planning to leverage more on WhatsApp for the user experience? Or are you planning something else like in Meta or something like that? So this question is open. Anyone would like to pick this? Yes, Jatinder, go ahead. Yeah.
So I will give the example of two different businesses. One is FTH Daily. So we have tried all the channels. So I don't know how much I can say, but the let's say I will not give you numbers, but then let me give you percentages, right? So when we did BTL, so the CAC was least in BTL, right? The old-fashioned, probably the wrong platform to say this, but I'm just taking that liberty. But the CAC was least in BTL, which is the old-fashioned way of canvassing through door to door and stuff like that, right? Second was I'm talking about new customer acquisition and not existing customer CRM, right? But when FreshToHome retail stores were concerned, there was a lot of traffic from FreshToHome online as well, but retail channels was completely clearly an offline to online transition platform. Like lots of other people did, but there are some cases of reverse online to offline as well coming, like in the case of Lenscart that we were talking about, right? So primarily, so when you have to build scale, then it has to be digital, even though you compromise a little bit on the CAC efficiency. But at the same time, if you have some time and then you want to build it slowly, then there is also always that offline to online conversion tactic that typically we have found it's extremely useful to do.
Got it. Jatinder, do you want to add?
If I may have to put across this, I think it all depends on the kind of proposition that you're putting across, right? Because every channel has its own characteristic. So if I may have to give you an example, like a journey from sachet to a bottle, right? So I'll actually put across something which is very easy to put across, need to test market, have an affinity. I'll put across an online space because have a larger penetration. And primarily, consumer view about online space is a deal brand, right? When they see anything on an online space, they feel setting, they're getting a value proposition deal, they'll pick it up. But that also built across a habit and affinity, wherein you start selling across something as good as a shampoo sachet and move across to your bottle over a period of time when the retail interface is concerned. So normally in an interface, retail channel, you need to have more interface where a customer want to, while he buying, he need to drive the value, he need to see the credibility of the brand, he want to have an assurance, and he's looking at service proposition. When he's looking at commoditized kind of a product, he will like to move across an online. So if I need to push across something commoditized and scale it across to another level, I'll start an online channel and then move across to that way.
Good. So,
I think I completely resonate with what JP said. It is all about proposition of the launch, right? Or of the product, or of the relaunch, whatever it is. So if you look at it, today there are brands worth about, they are not listed, but by valuation they are approximately about $250 billion. A Chinese brand called Shein, right? Who get their go-to-market completely out of influences from TikTok and Insta, right? 100%, that's their growth model. So whatever gets put up on those platforms get converted into a design and then gets into a limited edition of a merchandise, which is just available for anywhere between 50 to 150 days or maximum 150 days. So the amount of excitement that you create, right, and the amount of pull through that you just get out of the influence, and you kind of create a bit of a short supply by making it a limited edition for a limited period of time. So there is so much of, but it has worked. So you would argue that you can do this for a while, but Sheen has been in the business for like 4 years now, right? And they're only doing better. And there are many global leaders who are actually trying to replicate that model, right? So that's a proposition, where they have said that the latest and the greatest of the fashion trends globally can be yours, right? And here I am, a brand, a platform which can actually give you that, right? So that's one segment. The other segment could be something like, more of staples, right? I mean, a white shirt or a general formal trouser, or kind of stuff. It is something which you might want to go and go to a store, maybe get some experience, get some options, try some fit outs, and try to get the best deal and that kind of stuff, right? That's the other end of the spectrum. So I think, and it could apply for every product category. So I'm just giving you the general sense from a apparel perspective. So my go-to would be depending on the proposition that I'm trying to communicate, right? That's the.
Got it. So, Ashmeer, now we have two different things, right? We have online and we also have offline. But how do you stitch this experience from one to another, right? We were speaking something about like the touch and feel when you are into the clothing, right? So do you have any framework, or do you have a seamless hop from online to offline? Because obviously we were also saying the CAC is somewhat on a decent side on the online because rent is what the CAC, right? So what is your take on that? Like how you can smoothly transfer from an online experience to an offline experience specific to your domain?
See, we are talking about channels, and as fellow panel members have mentioned, one is the channel you want to reach out to new consumers. One is the other one would be the existing consumers. From a old world parlance, channels would be the offline and online space that you're looking at, and that's where the question gets addressed. With having the database of the consumers who've already shopped, they want to have a seamless experience. Either, and today the consumers not only reaching out to you through Instagram, Facebook, or WhatsApp, or any other means, TikTok as well. So we have influencers who are on board with us, and specifically kind of launching new ranges which are there. Touch and feel is obviously the aspect that you're talking about, but very important that Satish mentioned. It's also the experience that you talk about. Online is more transactional. Some of the aspects would be, you're offering something, right? As now we speak, there's an offer that is going on across any brand that we talk about, including DaMENSCH. But when you look at offline, the consumer would look at more from what is he getting, from being present at the store. There are a lot of products which are there. It could only be after you have tried it. Obviously, I'm not speaking about innerwear because there are no trials in innerwear. But obviously, in terms of outerwear, you can definitely have a look and feel the temperature, in terms of thermals or what do we talk about. So these are the aspects which can only be felt about. The other aspect is you might not take a risk with a high MRP product when you're not very sure about it. Which definitely, when you go and try for yourself, even if you feel that it is a higher cost, you might even want to try it and then eventually make a purchase. The aspect of you kind of defects that you mentioned, there you have an option. You say, okay, fine, this color is not there. There's a defect in the product. You can look at there, immediately change over there, rather than online. It is delivered to you. You wait for the return pickup, and then there are a lot of challenges with that. While all of them have their plus and minus, I still feel that offline, with the kind of penetration and the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities that we're talking about, gives that spread for increasing the brand presence across. So yeah, that's my point of it.
Yeah, and if I were to add to it, I think like most of the panelists touched upon a very, very consumer-facing aspect of like when you go through this omni-channel kind of an experience, online to offline. I mean, I can just probably add there's a lot of tension and load in the back end when you do that. I think it's also about while you want the customers to experience your brand in a consistent manner, right? But some of the mental models we need to challenge internally is that some of the retailers see it, okay, online is an extension of offline, which is, to most of the time, we kind of our like stand to correct our belief itself, right? So that's one thing, right? And associated to it is the bigger questions of resource allocation, build versus buy, and those kind of dynamics and organizational pushes and pulls that come in, right? And if I can like talk about like some of my experiences, that see, one of the fundamental myths, and I'm talking from a basket grocery like online to offline kind of a perspective rather than a lot of vertical commerce perspective, right? So one of the prevalent belief, like I believe, and some of you can keep me honest right here, that say like 5-6 years back when this like we had evolution in terms of a lot of vertical basket grocery players, right, like putting, and also as a reaction to it, a lot of offline retailers also kind of responding to that, right? And one of the mental model prevalent at that point was that, okay, whatever works in my store works for an online customer because I have a strong brand. Okay, and my interface with the external customer is my ordering and cataloging app, right? But we saw that we saw that say very similar customer who believes in your store behaves very differently when he kind of comes to the store online. So one of the data point I can talk about without like too many details is that we did find that the pricing, you can have a much sharper pricing for an online customer, differentiate across categories, which will allow you to make more money in the online channel versus what you do in the offline store, right? So those are the nuances that come, right? Whereas you would find that customers will be certainly like very, very dissatisfied if they find a particular item at a certain price in online versus, because they benchmark against their ICs, right, image competitors. So those are the dynamics I think we need to be like aware of, right? And it's always good to kind of put a lot of thought like behind and a lot of research, like a lot of continuous research and focus group discussions and stuff like that. So it kind of evolves with it, right? So I'm just trying to touch upon the like lot of the back end aspects that get involved into that. Yeah.
Good that you touched upon the persona. So, Jatinder, one interesting question which I have is, say, since you are into this travel and everything, right, there might be lot of segments you have to cover, maybe an international traveler to a domestic traveler to a pilgrim traveler and everything. Do you have something, say you do any micro-segmenting, which is helping you to make sure that the user experience different for a certain segment compared to an user experience for, say, section A and section B? Is that something you are trying, or have you tried in the past, or you are trying something in the near future? Would like to know.
Okay, just to give a perspective about in travel, is largely the product is intangible, right? Unlike you walk into store, you can feel it, touch it, and you can have a test drive of a car and then you pay money. Here you pay money first and then consume the product later on. So there's a difference in terms of the way you consume the product. Now coming back to us in terms of travel is concerned, so largely what we see across is primarily, and what we want to infuse is, see at any point in time, depending on my kitchen, on a retail outlet I can have X many people coming in. On online space I can sell across, I can scale it off. But when a consumer is buying across the product, he will see if he has to buy a ticket or buy a hotel or a stand component, or a product which is like a package tour where he doesn't have to intervene for a visa and all that, because holiday is not simply going and buying, you have a lot of regulatory stuff around it. Then, and there is a differentiation is also very, very different. You may come in Bangalore, stay at 2,000 rupees and 2 lakh rupees as well, depending on the kind of hotel and the kind of stuff that you pick. So awareness level and the consumer, if I may speak about in terms of how you want to look and view the product, will vary. If I'm traveling with a family, or for instance, if you're traveling with family, you will like to see everything is being taken care of. You'll go to a tea, you will even like to pay 10 to 20% premium to make sure the service aspect is being taken care of. If you're traveling alone, you don't mind even if you look from so among the two delta, you look at a price as a delta, not a product as a delta, right? So that's where the variance come across. While we intend to use, if you ask me, I don't influence consumer behavior in terms of where he want to buy. I allow consumer to choose where he intend and he's comfortable in buying across the stuff. We want to be at all the channels, and depending on the ease of product, right, where he feels setting is picking up something where it doesn't need any kind of intervention, he'll pick it up. And then we give him ease of buying in a sense. There is a tele-assisted booking. Even still he wants, he can go back. and wherein something where is a complex stuff, wherein he want to pick up some stuff, want to understand right from what food, what temperature, what cloth, what medicine, what to see and all that, then it's like more of a consultancy selling. It's not a selling per se. Then he'll have to come across, have an interface in store, speak about it, and also depend on kind of ticket size he's buying. So if he's buying a ticket size of say about 8 to 10 lakh rupees for a Europe holiday for a family, he will definitely like to come across and have an interface with you. He doesn't want to pick up a call and say somebody, Ram is picking, a subtype Sham is picking. He doesn't know who it is. He wants to have a one guy who takes the responsibility of his store, and he want to have a face to the name, right? So that's how it moves, right? And for us, I don't want to drive him or influence his behavior. I want to be at all the place wherever he feel he's comfortable at, we allow him to pick it up.
Got it. So how does it work in Fresh? Because again, you have a certain set of customers who might be a repeat purchaser on your online store compared to your offline store. Do you have a different, do you run campaigns differently for these customers?
So in FTH Daily, we follow this metric called CUR, which is current user react rate. So anybody who has come the previous week, how much percentage of that? So in FTH Daily, we have a rate of 98% CUR. So which means that people are, because it's a subscription product. So I think most of the subscription products you would find that kind of a thing. But having said that, so all customers are not equal for us, right? For any brand for that matter. So our monthly spend ranges from around, I think, some 1,000 rupees, 1,000 rupees per month to around 5,000 and even upwards. There are customers who are spending around 12,000 as well. So those cohorts, the distinction of these cohorts and then giving that kind of an experience is extremely critical for the profitability of the brand. So our internal targeters, on an average, we need to have around 2,000 is what, if it is 2,000, then we are good, right? Because our good thing is our OPEX costs are extremely low because we have high density deliveries. So what we do is, with respect to, we do not have a pricing distinction between any of the VIP customers, but then we do that delivery service, that kind of a distinction. So they, of course, would be less value conscious. So a pricing is not something, because that they have already relished the experience with the brand, with the entire experience, etc. So brand in this kind of a context may be probably over stretching that thing. But then I think that experience is the one that. So they're fine with that. So that way the price inertia or the elasticity is much less. It doesn't actually matter even if it is a little more. Whereas retail customers are, so I think FreshToHome, because of that brand, has established its name with the chemical freeness as well as the tenderness of the product. So there are lots of customers who keep coming. Even our store run rate has been around high 70s. To around 56 to 70%. So there are some, because of the religious, there are some festivals and stuff like that. So every week people might, there is some Amavasi, Egadashi, something like that, right? So those kinds of things are there. So with retail, there is no, except there is a VIP thing that happens to our customers. And even FreshToHome online, there is of course a VIP, like a subscription kind of a thing. You pay for $199, then for 3 months it is free, etc. Delivery is free, etc. So those are the kinds of distinctions that we do.
Does it same apply for Arvind as well, or do you have a different strategy, Satish?
See, I think obviously, the RFM model, your recency, frequency, purchases, and wallet size are all table stakes, right? So there is no significant difference from what anyone else would do, and we've also been doing that for a lot of time. But what I would add in context to where we are today is what are the other soft parameters, right, which are actually, see, the thing is today the whole consumer insight cannot be relational in nature, right? It's not a linear thing, right? I mean, I visited, say a US Polo Indiranagar store 4 times, and my average basket size was 3,000 rupees, and highest was 6,000, lowest was 1,500. It doesn't work like that. It's about, it's a bit of a graph, right? It's a consumer graph, right? In terms of, and the data points are far more richer, right? Even even the non-digital offline breadcrumbs that I can get out of the data that I can generate out of a shopping experience is actually going to be very, very valuable to create a segmentation, right? And because you have a camera, we have a footfall system, we link the footfall to what the billing is. We have some idea of what the average dwell time is, whether people are coming as individuals or they're coming as families. So all these are, customer breadcrumbs, right, from a data perspective. And each one of them is monetizable if I'm able to put the right type of, insight behind it, right? So broadly, I would say that our ability to, and this goes back to your first question, how important is data, right? I mean, data is oil, data is soil, and all that is fine, but data is literally, oxygen for us, right? Because that's what we are breathing and seeing, and the more we get out of it, the more value that you derive out of it, right? So it's a vast subject. I don't want to belabor that, but to your point, segmentation is more non-linear in nature. It is more like a graph, right, rather than a relational aspect, right? I think that's what I'll probably summarize it as.
Got it. So from 2020, I think, there was a new channel, WhatsApp, which was introduced for all the brands, right? So now the way you are interacting or the way you are representing, one, you got leveraged instead of just sending a plain vanilla of text only. Now you can just, maybe for Yatra, you can send a complete itinerary. Maybe for Fresh, they can send a video. For Arvind, again, you can send a catalog, complete catalog. Again, for you, you can send a quick tip of where your store is as well, right? So how you guys are planning to take this front, right? Because now Meta coming in and a customer can completely complete his order within WhatsApp itself, right? How you are planning for the digital experience for the new era of channels? Have you tried anything, or have you planned anything differently what your competitors are doing? Anyone, if you have already done it, would love to know some insights on that.
So my own sincere request to myself, because it is very easy to get influenced by the glitter and the glamour of a new thing, which is what we also did. But it is just a matter of time, because if it is not used intelligently, it will become another SMS channel, and customers will start like completely ignoring whatever things are coming. So right now people are looking at it because it's all personal, because it's my friends, and I mean there are millions of groups which you don't want to look at, but there is some kind of a personalization in WhatsApp, right? SMS, I think people have stopped looking at it, though our experience is different. But WhatsApp, yes, we have used it. It has given 20% more results than what the other channels that we typically use. But I also know that it is because of the newness of the new thing. But going forward, am I expecting the same kind of incremental results out of this? No.
But I think it should be a different case for Yatra, I think, because people are now not opening the app to see the boarding passes, right? They just open the WhatsApp and then just show the boarding pass. It completely changes the experience for traveling.
I think very true. And as I said, stating that whatever is relevant to consumer and whatever is relevant to the new context is you need to keep on evolving the stuff. And that's become very handy. You don't need to carry a printout, a paper, and stuff like everything is in a palm. And even for a matter of fact, when you're sharing a proposition on a WhatsApp, say you can send across 20-second video where people can actually see something which is close to tangible stuff. They can experience the stuff. So as of now, yes, we've been using it, optimizing it for a consumer depending on the kind of product line. And hopefully, I do agree stating that yes, every tool has a shelf life, right? Something else may come through which will further enhance more personalization. As of now, we've been optimally using this particular stuff, and I think consumer are also appreciating this stuff.
See, if I just would add to it, like I think he rightly put it, it's like a tool, right? So See, I think the right way probably to me is to think about it is like, what is the objective function you're optimizing for? And these all things become an input to that, right? So if my objective function is to optimize, say, yields across my, say, settled customer base, and whatever works for it, then it would be good, right? Or if my objective function is to optimize for acquisitions, then maybe there is some more channel, right? So I think if we just keep that framework of optimization in mind as per like what customer problem we are solving for, and then these things become inputs, right, to that. Yeah.
Cool, and I think it's time. If there is any questions, we are open for questions. Yeah. Can you pass the mic to the gentleman?
Hello. So I'm Sumit from Mountain Consulting Noida. I have one question, just as a user experience. I may go online and experience and review a customer review, but still I can go offline and buy that product. And at that time, if I find that product to be not up to my expectation, then I may go to the company's website and grievances site and submit my complaint. So in that case, how you are finding this thing where your offline customer is not available online to share his experience?
I think I will route this question to the three gentlemen who are both in online and offline.
I can give you my perspective first. We are all 100% of us are offline customers. We're offline customers, right? Some of us have moved to online. Some of us has moved partially online. Some of the products in terms of frequency we will buy online probably twice a month, offline 3 times a month. Those kinds of things, right? From our experience. So it is very easy because that is the ingrained habit, right? Offline is the ingrained habit, right? So from a grocery or a fish and meat kind of an experience. So if there is an unlikely chance that there is some problem in the quality of our product online, people tend to immediately go offline because that is what they have been habituated for the last 20-25 years, right? That check the stuff, and then if they are satisfied with the quality, take it, because there is some certainty to it. Otherwise, something comes into my house, there is no certainty. Yes, I can give it back and I get refund and all that, but then it's headache and hassle, right? So yes, so that is a very natural trend for customers to fall back on in terms of the purchase experience. So that actually stems from the fact that you are not certain whether the online product that you get a delivery of at your house, maybe it's a certainty problem, right? So I do not know the unknown, right? But when I'm going there, I'm seeing that, and then I will take a decision, I'll make a decision whether to buy it or not, right? But mostly, if the stuff is good, then I will go for it.
Okay. One last question will take.
I'll just
okay.
I'll just answer one more while he did mention about it. All of us have been white goods buyer. So it could be a refrigerator, could be any electronic item. And what you mentioned is exactly what happens. So if you are looking at any of the white good product that you're talking about, you'll go and actually see it physically. You'll compare it online, sasta mil raha hai kya? And then if you feel that, with all that only 200, 500 rupees difference, if you're able to, hold somebody responsible, as JP was mentioning, that, if the price tag is higher, they like to, hold somebody responsible, or somebody has to be accountable for it. So that's how, as consumers, and, Santosh rightly pointed out, saying that this is how it is. We tend to be influenced because, everything looks very rosy online, shot in the best colors. The same color would not look similar when you talk about a fabric point of view, but actually you see that. So there are a lot of consumer feedback that comes like that the pink that you see, and this happens, and I guess the women customers over here would definitely vouch to this. The male gaze is typically a little bit colorblind, I can say it, but they can differentiate between a pink, a baby pink, and a different pink. And if that is what is the differentiation that you're seeing it, and that feedback goes to the company, company definitely, the brand takes a call if they find there's a lot of feedback coming on. So yeah, very relevant point, and that's how majority of the brands kind of action. Thanks.
Okay, there are a few more questions, but we are running out of time. Gentlemen will be there. Please do catch up with them. Over to you. Thanks everyone for your time.